Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning, and exciting time to announce our new president and CEO, Derrick Chubbs. Derrick, great to have you here. Congratulations. The board has done a very thorough search, a national search, hundreds of candidates from across the country, and boy, to come out on top, you got to be one special human being. So congratulations and welcome to the team.
I couldn't be more thrilled to have this opportunity, and yeah, I'll miss Texas, but I'm looking forward to being an official Floridian. Did I say that right?
Right.
Am I saying it right?
You might have to trade your boots in for sandals.
I don't know.
Something like that.
That's going to be a hard shift.
Okay. So, for the staff, this session is not set up for a question and answer period, okay? So you won't have that opportunity today, but there's going to be ample opportunity starting January 3rd when Derrick is here. So, there'll be numerous sessions set up that, you can ask those questions personally and face-to-face with Derrick. So you can look forward to that too. So Derrick, help us understand kind of your life journey, not, bits and pieces personally, professionally, and a bit about your professional background. I want to let you share that because you could do the best justice to that. So let staff know.
Well, again, good morning, and it's certainly a pleasure to be here with all of you. And I look forward to the opportunity, to meet each and every one of you one-on-one. And I have every intention of doing that, but I'll leave that up to the team and my roaming around, because I like to roam around. So you will see me. I like to start from the very beginning. So let's just start, when I was born. I was born to an unwed teenage mother, and that's very important when I tell the whole story. She was smart enough to give me up for adoption, and I was adopted by an amazing older couple who had always wanted children, and that was in Georgia quite a few years ago. From there, I went to school at Georgia State University, the first one in my family to even graduate from high school, much less go to college. So, that was, an exciting adventure. From there, I went to work for IBM. And at IBM is where I think I had my first management role. And that's, so it may sound a little old, but every now and then I'll probably fall back on some of that training that I got. I spent some time at IBM. I left and went to work at a smaller software company called Pervasive Software, where I had the opportunity to get some global experience. I had a team in Europe and a team in Asia. That was the first time I'd ever had a passport. Right. So, which included not signing it when I was going to Ireland, and I thought I was going to end up in jail. That funny story. I'll tell you about that one day, as he said, "You didn't sign your passport, laddie." From there, I went to work for Dell, and there's a parallel track going on along with that. My grandfather was the pastor of my church that I grew up in. So there's been a family-oriented focus on service for my entire life. During my corporate career, my first board that I sat on was the board focused on young African-American boys and girls and trying to keep them in school. And I've also had a passion for the special needs community as well. And I really enjoyed that extra work, Dave. I mean, it was just a ton of fun. And I remember getting ready for a presentation. I'd been up literally all night. I was at Dell. And I looked in the mirror and I said, okay, so really what's next for you? Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed my corporate career. I learned a lot, experienced things that a little country boy from Georgia would never have had the opportunity to experience. but it just wasn't quite enough. I was missing something. So I've also been fortunate enough to have some really good mentors along this journey. And I remember having coffee with one of them, and he said, well, I said, the technology thing just isn't doing it for me right now. I'm losing the enthusiasm. He said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm really enjoying the volunteer work that I'm doing. And he said, well, why don't you go and work for a nonprofit? And I said, because I can't afford to work for a nonprofit. I've got 2 kids about to go to college. So that's just not going to work. But as luck would have it, a few years down the road and some little planning and cooperation from family, my first role was as a CEO for the American Red Cross of Central Texas. And I never looked back. And if I had all of it to do all over again, I would do the exact same thing around the exact time frame. Now, and was it different? Yeah, it's very, very different. But now when I'm up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning preparing for a board meeting, at least I understand why.
You got up at 2 and 3 for board meetings at the food bank?
I'm hoping this board isn't the same.
No, it's not.
Wow. Oh yeah. It's a lot of work. So at the American Red Cross, my first role was as a local CEO. No good deed goes unpunished. And I got promoted to a national role where I managed operations for 4 states, then 9 states. And I realized at a certain point that I had literally become a bureaucrat. And in that role with the 9 states, all the CEOs reported to me as the division vice president, and I reported to the president of the Red Cross in DC. And I missed why I did it in the first place. Okay. And so I started a very quiet 2-year search. It took a couple of years. And as luck would have it, a very good friend of mine who happened to have been the CEO for Goodwill in Austin ran into the chair of the search committee for the Central Texas Food Bank because they were looking for a new CEO. Yeah. And he called me. He called me and said, I want to give her your name. And if that's okay with you, just don't embarrass me. And the rest is history.
Wow. And there's a lot to unpack along that journey, I'm sure. It's always interesting, we go to these food bank conferences or within the food bank, somebody comes on board and you want to find out, what's their story, and kind of the why. That was my next question, but you really got to that already. The why question is so critical. But, we hear that a lot of people get to a certain point if they're in the corporate world that, there's got to be something else, and don't know quite what it is, and run across a lot of those folks, including myself years and years ago. Yeah. But what you found and what I believe I found in a lot of others is that fit. You just know it. It's hard to articulate it or really explain it, but I think it's just this accumulation of time and experiences and everything that add up. Yeah. Well, we learned so much about you already in 5 minutes. This is really good.
There are probably 20 different stories underneath that.
I bet. So I'm going to do something I usually do, and I'm going to go off script with a question.
Just make sure it's a softball day.
It is. Okay. And I want to learn from this. Everybody wants to learn from this. But because you already answered pretty much the why. Okay. Unless you really wanted to expand on that. But through that history, obviously, you've been a very successful leader. Okay. And leaders have different styles and different approaches, and different, there's some core qualities to leadership too. What would you say, what you believe are the core qualities to leadership, and what's your style?
I would say fundamentally adaptability. No 2 organizations are the same. Whether it's whether it's new manager school at IBM, where the gentleman stands up in front of everyone on day one and says, congratulations, your roles or your jobs have never been more exposed than they are now. Or whether you're lucky enough to be in Paris and don't speak French and your handler is taking you to a client and the whole conversation is in French and you have no idea whether he's
getting
you
it or
have
not.
no idea whether you're making progress or not, or whether it's standing in front of someone after a disaster site and they're telling you the story about how they got in their bathtub and everything was gone except the bathtub. And it's literally sitting on the foundation and you're having that conversation. Being able to adjust to not only organizationally, but from a community perspective. We were talking about liberal versus conservative communities and the different mindsets that are associated with that. The differences of having various conversations between individual staff members and understanding how to get the best productivity out of them. So I would say if I have one really good skill, it's adaptability. Now, I believe in collaborating. I'm not the autocratic, dictatorial kind of guy. I'm not that smart. I'm not. I like to be around very smart people. And
we have that in common.
And that is, and that's also one of the elements that attracted me to Second Harvest here. You have a long track record that you've already established. You're very well appreciated and respected throughout the country. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? And I find that exciting as well. And if I could just shift one little piece here, I've often said I'm very comfortable with having conversations around diversity. I will also say looking the way I look. And my entire career, having been 95+% of those who did not look like me, there is an adaptability component that's required for that. And for those of you watching, I'm very comfortable having these types of conversations. And I hope you're going to be comfortable having them with me as well, because we have so much to learn from each other. And that's a longer answer probably than you.
No, this is working for us, right, folks?
than you intended, but maybe it's my favorite skill in terms of adaptability. Now there are others, but I would say that's the biggest one.
Yeah, I think that is so critical. If you're not adaptable, you're going to snap, somewhere along the lines, especially, in the corporate world, but I say especially in the not-for-profit world, you have to be super adaptable. And I think by being adaptable, that automatically a byproduct of that is that you are open and curious, and then the byproduct of that, I think, can lead to innovation and creativity, which is so critical, for sure.
And to that point, thank you for bringing that up. I love innovation and I love creativity, and I don't have a problem when people make mistakes.
Like that one.
I really need. We can coast forever, but if we continue to coast forever, how many people may not get fed?
Exactly.
If we're doing it that way. So if we are really serious about narrowing a hunger gap, we're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to be innovative, and we're going to have to take that out. It can't just be something that we do inside of our own building. It needs to be something that we take out into the community. So
for those of you who are from your home offices and that coming in, when Derrick said he's comfortable with mistakes, you should have seen the senior leadership team here sitting in the room. They go, yes.
Now, if I need to preface that, you don't get to continue to make mistakes.
Derrick, one thing that you're probably not aware of, but one of my mantras is that we embrace failure. And you learn, I believe you learn twice as much from failure than you do from success. There's a lot of learning in success, believe me. But, don't make it personal, we all fail. That's the great myth in in society, I think that you got to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. But there's such great value in putting that failure out on the table. And sometimes it's a little one, and sometimes it's capital F. Don't read anything into that.
Yeah, I've made quite a few on the corporate side, made some doozies that cost money. But I was fortunate enough to have leadership in place that said, okay, just get it fixed, but the next project you need to make money. And that's how we've moved forward.
Exactly. Well, that's cool. That's really good. We could go on and on about leadership, but I like that one, adaptability. So looking forward to the role, any specific directions that you see that could be taken around hunger relief? And maybe that's most likely based on your experience in Austin. What do you think, food banking is changing so much, has changed so much and continues to change. I think this is a part of a history of the food bank movement that we're in right now. I don't think hopefully we'll never experience another thing like COVID, but you talk about adaptability, right? What do you see, in terms of the approach to hunger relief and the ways of going about it beyond the real obvious of, collecting this food and getting it out to people in need?
We spent, and I'll just say my 5 years that I've been with in the network, we spent a lot of time talking about pounds, with that being the primary measure of success. I'm a major advocate of shifting from pounds to people, and what is that impact? Now, when you're shifting from pounds to people, there's an additional requirement because you need to understand your people. People being our clients or our neighbors. I think as Feeding America is trying to shift it, y'all got to check me on that and make sure I'm heading in the right direction. Thank you. And it does, and also realizing that even though communities are different, at the end of the day, hunger is pretty similar from one family to the next. The food's either there or it isn't there. Something that, and we were talking a little bit about that, and you've already started having those conversations here around community engagement and the like. I would just like to see that explode.
Great, fantastic.
And for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, let's get realistic. People just don't want to be in our lines. They have to check their dignity at the door. Yeah. And I've got a little experience with this. And that's really hard to do. So at what point or how often can we engage them in the conversation, so that we're, as opposed to, I guess, that we're talking and working with people and doing things and initiatives with them as opposed to for them. Mm-hmm. And that helps us with our mindset as well. When I'm working with you, as opposed to doing something for you, I have a totally different mindset. And that's where I see the next food banking movement, or the next movement from a food banking perspective, to go. That's where it needs to go. Mm-hmm. With the conversations that I'm having with community members, they're saying, well, at what point do you come and ask me what I need and stop just dumping and making decisions on my behalf? Yeah. That's something, I hope you hear the passion inside of me around that, but that's something that I am extremely passionate about. And I think optimizing that little simple philosophy is the next step in what I hope is going to be the next round of the food bank movement. We're
totally in sync there. We have 4 key strategic initiatives, and that is one of them. Mm-hmm. We call it the neighbor's voice, the neighbor's experience. And it is new work, for 30, almost 40 years. Traditional food banking, the key relationship has been with the partner agencies, right? Mm-hmm. And as we enter into this space, as we have here already, boy, are we ever learning a lot. And it's long-term work. This is not something that you solve and check the box off, right?
No, not at all.
But it is ongoing. Even when you start getting your head and hands around it, it's just continuous work for sure. So that brings up a whole different dynamic with our partner agencies,
Mhm.
and collaboration with them. But it does make a lot of sense. So that's great to hear.
Well, and also who should be doing that work?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not us doing that work. People in communities relate to people in the communities, the people they go to church with on Sunday, the people they see at the Rotary Club. Is it possible that we arm them or enable them to do that work on our behalf? Not us. We were joking about being from Orlando, going into a rural community,
Right.
like I was talking about being in Austin and going to a rural community. It's really not.
Yeah.
They'll hear it, but they'll really feel it and possibly embrace it if it's that neighbor that's having that conversation with
Exactly.
them, not us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it. That's great. Anything else you want to bring up that I haven't asked you about? We got about almost 7 minutes to be exact left as Dan is queuing us.
I am really stoked about the opportunity to do this. It's been a family desire to live in Florida. I have sons that are in Georgia, so now they don't have to hit me up for a plane ticket when they come to visit. They can get
That's
in their
always a good
freaking
thing.
cars and just drive down. That's good. My wife has good friends that are from Florida, so in terms of a personal opportunity, it really feels good to be on this next new journey, and to be able to be on this next new journey, working with this team is even more exciting. A leader's dream is to be able to go into an organization that doesn't need to be fixed. And while I'm certain there are opportunities that we'll all get focused on, again, Second Harvest is one of the, most well-respected, food banks in the country. Now, I'm a little paranoid about stepping into your shoes. There's a very long legacy of success that you have, not only with this food bank, but that you have with this community as well. Those are big shoes to fill, and I will try my level best not to screw it up.
Yeah, there's a little note in my top drawer that says that.
Because so my commitment to you is that the legacy you built will just work as a team to make it stronger.
Man, I appreciate that. That's built on the shoulders of many people prior to me too. So we're all in a certain season of life to step into a role, and that is wonderful to hear. What key relationships do you think there are in this community that you really want to reach out to, in the early days when you arrive?
Naturally, people who provide resource. There'll be, because without the resource, we naturally can't do what we do. Any relationships from city officials. I think I may have mentioned, I copied you on it. My mayor introduced me to Mayor Dyer.
That's really cool.
And also to start having conversations with diverse communities as well. We found during the pandemic, we found so many communities that we were not aware were having the experience that they were. And you didn't necessarily have it here, but around the February timeframe of this year, Texas pretty much froze over. So that was a totally different dynamic altogether. Fortunately, we had one pipe burst in the food bank, but we were closed ourselves for a week during that freeze as well. But I really want to work with the team to determine or sustain or continue the connection with all communities, particularly diverse communities. Because at the end of the day, I think, and it's in your strategic plan, we want to make sure that we are viewing our distribution methods, our workforce methods in an equitable manner so that everyone gets the opportunity to benefit from it. So I would say whatever path I need to be on, and I'll look to you to put me on that path. That's the direction I'll be headed.
I really like what you said about, you just mentioned equity again, but your passion around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we have started that work, and that is ongoing work too.
That's a lifetime of work.
So the organization is really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So we're winding down to the end. I just really want to congratulate you once again. I can sleep well as I retire. And just, wish you all the best, and the entire team. So.
Well, and I hope you realize that this isn't the final conversation.
Oh, no, we haven't begun.
You owe me a round of golf. I mean, my hope is that I had drinks once a month with the CEO for the Central Texas Food Bank, and he and I, actually. I'm not a big drinker, but he and I had a shot of whiskey. The other day.
To loosen it
Wait a minute, I'm saying this with HR in the room. One, who knows? And I think those relationships are precious. And my hope is that I hope that you can always pick up the phone, particularly if you want to pick up the phone and say, Derrick, WTF? What did you say? Are you serious? You decided to go and do this? And I'll explain, well, Dave, they made me do it.
Exactly. Probably that will be it.
That was it. But I sincerely hope that our relationship is going to be sustainable as well.
Good.
And I wish you all the best. Thank you for the vote of confidence. And most importantly, thank you for what you've done for this building and this community.
Looking forward to the future for you and for all of us.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, I think we're wrapped up, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned.
See you later.